I'm Elizabeth Krasnoff, and I will introduce my panel, Debbie Flickinger and Alethea Narad. And Debbie will lead us off with an introduction to the presentation. We'll have a short introduction and then a discussion for the body of the presentation, and then come back with a conclusion. In the middle of the presentation, we'll be addressing some questions, and we invite you to participate in the chat, and we'll bring in as many of your comments and questions as possible. Let's see, are you ready, Debbie? Debbie's still pulling the presentation together, so I'll just introduce myself quickly for a few seconds. I did do my PhD at CIIS. My studies really focus on sound, consciousness, and healing, and weaving those three things together. And so I am here with the braid of those three powerful forces in my life. I think Debbie is ready.
I am.
Okay, so I'll let you introduce yourself and begin our presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you, Elizabeth. My name is Debbie Flickinger. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts, and right now I live in the Bay Area, Concord, California. And the way this is going to go today, Alethea Narad will do the introduction. Ready, Alethea?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
I can. You look beautiful, by the way, both you and Elizabeth.
Thank you. So Elizabeth was going to start us with a tone.
Okay, so
our sacred space.
To welcome you all to the moment, this is going to be the key of F in a crystal bowl, which is the sound of the heart. And then there'll be another sound after it. So close your eyes, take a deep breath. We've just been on a magical journey with Peter. I feel very magical right now after listening to all of that. Thank you, Peter. And now we'll come into the present moment of this talk.
As we open up this sacred space, we do so in the spirit of feminine consciousness. Therefore, I would like to invite you to look inward and reflect on how our words are felt within your heart. As we enter the sacred circle, we are entering the non-linear epistemic realm, the space of relationship, whole systems, complexity, and context, which is the inherent dwelling place of feminine. In this conversation, we dwell here, but this distinction should not be taken as an either or dichotomy, as we all embody a complementarity of non-linear and linear patterns. In this process, it is relevant to observe whether knowledge that distinction, how we operate within it, and which types of individual and systemic behavior are thus perpetuated. The sacred circle holds the essence creative spark for which transformation can take place. Can we stay long enough in the space between knowing and not knowing, understanding and questioning, so a deeper connection and insight is gained and a new story can be birthed? Are you able to receive the meaning and message, or some form of resistance? Can you feel into your heart space, or is your mind racing? Are there feelings or thoughts of judgment, criticism, emotional angst, or a feeling of being uncomfortable, or just flat out disagreement? It is this conscious feeling and contemplative inquiry that we are beginning to touch on the profound blessings of feminine consciousness. Deep self-reflection partnered with the
Alethea, your voice has a double echo and people are not able to understand you.
Uh-oh. Hang on here.
Now you're muted. Now you're muted.
Okay. What is echo?
Everything you say repeats and reverberates.
Ugh. How is
Okay,
still?
there's some suggestions here. Too many mics open. Turn your speaker down. Do you have several microphones, perhaps?
Nope.
Or
just
another
one.
computer logged in your proximity?
A second.
Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate your conscious presence.
Elizabeth, it might also be one of yours. You have 3 presenters' mics open, probably, which also have speakers. And so you might want to mute the other 2.
Oh, thank you. Let's try that, Jeffrey. I have learned to listen to Jeffrey. This guy knows what he's talking about. Okay, Debbie and I, let's mute and see if it makes a difference.
Is that better? Is that better now?
Nope. So much for that plug, but thank you.
And here?
I meant it, Jeffrey.
It's coming through. Yeah, it's not on this end. I'm not sure what.
Okay.
How did it work?
Let's move on then. I'm not sure what to do. Maybe Alethea, try rebooting, and perhaps Debbie, you can pick up with the second slide.
Thank you, Elizabeth. In a time of pandemic, isolation, polarity, and shrinking women's rights, how can we expand and amplify feminine consciousness in a feminine way? The purpose of this conversation is to reflect on how the pandemic has had a heightened impact on human rights, and especially the rights of women and cultural groups, and discover how feminine consciousness can create a path to a caring and sustainable future for all humankind. Elizabeth and Althea, do you have anything else to add?
Go ahead, Alethea. People are saying they can understand you well enough. She's getting some tech support in the background there.
How about you, Elizabeth, as we continue on? Would you like to add anything to what has been said thus far?
I will simply say here that when we encounter systemic issues at the level that we are all facing today, it's a time to turn towards them and not away. And so as we reflect on this presentation and these qualities that we're about to present to you, I myself think each day, how can we expand and amplify and become more and greater than we previously were to meet these challenges? How can each of us, and I'm speaking to every single one of you, expand our medicine and bring our deep contemplations and paths forward to more and more people? So that's the lens through which I will be looking at the feminine qualities that we are going to share with you today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Elizabeth. Now, what is feminine consciousness? You know, I've read so many books on consciousness, and I really like Dr. Alan Combs' definition. We define feminine consciousness as the background or simply the ground of all women's experiences. That to me really puts it in a really unique perspective. To create community, heal polarity, and share information in a caring and sustainable way, we propose the following as the attributes of feminine consciousness. Elizabeth?
The first two qualities we wanted to start with are receptivity and acceptance. And I make a note down there of the word stillness. We're all very focused on production and action and what to do, and that's very important. But there's another half of that that we can add that's very powerful, and it's a little complicated to talk about it because it is receptivity, it is quiet, it is still. But what does receptivity allow us? When we are receptive to ideas, we're listening here to each other speak, and we are deeply taking in each other's ideas. In that receptivity and in that stillness, there is allowed an integration. Integral thinking is at the core of being able to come together in a community and meet each other consciously and move forward. So receptivity is incredibly powerful, as is acceptance. When we listen to each other and receive each other and accept another's point of view, another's truth, the reality of the situation that we're in and that we face, there becomes, again, a moment of integration and the possibility for creating solutions. The acceptance is a really important piece of the process. And my note there is stillness, because much of this happens when we drop down into the stillness of our own soul, where we have accepted who we are, right? That's the beginning of accepting others. It's accepting ourselves. And that allows for the all-important dialogue. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and turn it back to Debbie.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So let's look at self-reflection, holistic awareness. A few years ago, while working with Dr. Jean Watson's caring theory, I developed an acronym for TREES: transformation, reflection, education, enlightenment, and sustainability. I have a handout that I will put in the chat box. Today, I will look specifically at reflection as it relates to self, and caring sustainability as it relates to holistic awareness. My work always begins with the heart. Self-reflection comes from being able to see clearly from a place of heart and caring. The enlightenment that resulting from a deeply self-reflective process, such as breath work, is holistic awareness, and eventually you will get to really see the picture and be able to really, your eyes are open. You know, that's where caring sustainability comes about, and the enlightenment, and therefore you can take it out to the community. Althea?
One of the things that I want to focus on, although I will talk about inclusiveness, I think most of us understand whole systems thinking. But in a book by Charles Reich called Opposing the System, I'd just like to read this because I think he hits the nail on the head related to inclusivity, or the lack thereof, in the current system that we're kind of all functioning in. He states, in recent decade, new politics emerged, one that no longer seeks to represent all of the interests of society to reconcile their differences. This new politics actually embraces conflict and promotes divisiveness. But by setting people against each other, by promoting insecurity, fear, and even hatred, the system's control can be strengthened. it splits apart. We're watching a great splitting, I think as all of us have seen, especially with the pandemic issues, which we'll get into a little bit. But when we lose ourselves in the midst of the rhetoric going on, and some have already spoken to that, and we lose ourselves, and we look at the other enemy. The most recent one, and this is a difficult one for all of us because we're still in it, is the vaxxed versus the unvaxxed. And so they've set up, there's another setup of how do we look at each other now in the society? It's one more place to divide what's already been divided. But I'd like to talk about a thing that's very much a part of me, which is this notion of passion and wisdom, because it's so inherent to in the feminine, and it's been much suppressed. And I'm wanting it to see it rebirth more and more. It has to be rebirth from our heart place, because there is a passion with the Shakti that moves out into activism, caring, to including everybody in the conversation. Are we still having problems with speaking? I wonder if it's going to, I don't think it's me. It's going through everybody else's speaker. We've checked ours here on this side. Can you get a sense of my word?
It's hard, Alethea. So maybe keep your sentences short because it's hard to understand the words.
Okay. Gabriel was going through your speakers and feeding back. That's what his thought was.
It's coming through pretty well here in Ecuador.
Some folks are hearing you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we can continue. Go ahead.
Okay, next slide, Debbie. So these are the questions that we have chosen to reflect together with you, the community. And essentially, the way we're going to do this is ask the question, and then we will have our comments, and you may have yours, and we welcome your questions as well. The one thing that we would like to invite you to do is to contemplate these questions through the lens of these 6 qualities that we have just introduced to you: receptivity, acceptance, self-reflection, holistic awareness, inclusiveness, and whole systems thinking. And then we've also added passion and wisdom. So I'm going to turn the chat on here. So here's the first question. What words or characteristics would you attribute to the feminine? And how or where did this belief come from?
I'd actually hear from some of the people in the audience on this one.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting for that, would you, or I see Kathleen, you have your hand up. Would you like to say something? I see, okay, here's a few qualities coming in. Thank you. So Shoshana is giving us empathy and wisdom. And Rebecca, strong, loving, and giving. John is giving us nurturing. And Jenny is giving us round and depth. Ellen is giving us nurturing for mothers. These are beautiful qualities. Being versus doing, and flow, intuitive. Concretion. Can you say a little bit more about that one? Magnetic versus electric. Oh, I love that one, Ken. It's more of a magnetic energy, as in drawing in, drawing towards. Compassion from Amina. Oh, okay. Co-creation. Thank you, Bridget. Yes, co-creation. And I love what you say there. Sorry, Birgit, if I didn't say your name correctly. I love what you say there, co-creation. So I just want to pull that point out for a minute, double click on that point. It's really important in this moment as the feminine really comes into power to understand that this is a co-power and a co-creation and a co-sharing. So I'm going to select from our quality list, inclusivity. We present to you here with feminine power. What is that? It's about reaching out and including. That's how we create community. That's how feminine and masculine work together. It's saying, hey, there's more we can bring to the table. What's on the table is really good. There are so many powerful, wonderful masculine qualities that have built so many wonderful things. Can we amplify? Can we expand with including feminine qualities? So I love that co-creation, Birgit. Unwavering living as love from Deb. Reflective and receptive. We've got a longer one here from Dr. Pratibha. The science of pranayama is the key to deeper, higher knowledge in states of consciousness. The practice in how to proceed with this science should be with the guidance of a qualified person, not always so easy to find or know who is qualified. Pre-pranayama practices to ensure stability is a very important aspect. So Dr. Pratibha is leaving her email address there, drpratibhapsychology@gmail.com, and she welcomes your questions and comments. Thank you. From Jeff Beck, we have parallel versus serial. I love that one, which is how the brain works, right? Yeah. The brain is parallel processing all the way. It's the most magical, powerful processing, knowing intelligence that we have, and it's parallel. In addition to some single-minded processes as well, right? We see all the qualities at work there. Oh, I know we're going to get a comment from Leslie now. Spatial-oriented alertness, love it. And thank you, Birgit. Co-creation and inclusivity. Kathleen, feminine consciousness for me has been appearing in leadership positions in education with acceptance and inclusivity. Thank you. So I'm going to thank you, everyone, for your beautiful.
Elizabeth. Can you hear me? I'd like to ask, because we came out with these beautiful, beautiful things from everyone. Where are those men in society and our system and in our systems that we're watching right now? Where are these things missing?
Alethea is asking, where would you like to see these qualities more present in our society, in our systems? Where can we bring them to create more balance in the current systems? Great question, Alethea. Education, yes. In the government, yes.
And how do we think and bring that forth?
How can you see that? Oh, okay, thank you, Leslie, everywhere. How can we bring it forth?
So,
everywhere?
Yeah, I'm really loving this conversation because I'm already thinking about number 2. It leads into number 2. How do we reclaim our knowing body and the voice of the heart? In my work, Caring Sustainability, the heart and the brain work as one pulse. For me, this is about finding balance in all that we do as women and finding answers in what Elizabeth speaks of, that stillness.
Bringing all places in heart. Thank you, Debbie. All places in hierarchy, big corporations, the US Senate and Congress, financing, social media, decentralization, question, have you delved into the age of Aquarius and the whole liminal shift into the new feminine driven society? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Ninja.
Beautiful point. Also known as the time of the sixth sun. All of the ancient calendars, Toltec, Mayan, Hopi, everybody is talking about this age as a time when the balance of masculine and feminine arrives. Big point, thank you. Defense forces, very interesting point, Vilvi. Let children who are generally naturally heart-centered lead more in society. Love it. Yes, we have some very interesting movement of that in the environment with our teen ambassador, huh? +1 for interest in Ninja's question. Thank you. We're at 2 minutes. Thank you, Jeffrey. So let's see, we have a few more questions here. What can we do when there's a backlash, such as the current Supreme Court legislation seeking mandates over a woman's body when power begins to be shared? We're sharing power now. It's wonderful. We're making amazing progress. This society right on the front lines of that progress, right? I feel like we're speaking to the choir here. These are very balanced men and women. How can we address the backlash in our work, in our thoughts? Our final closing comments. I'm going to again call on inclusivity. I'm again going to call on reaching across the aisle. I'm again going to call on receptivity to the fear-driven patterns that are causing this backlash. It's caused by fear. Don't take from me what is mine. Don't take from me what is mine. No one wants to take. We want to amplify. We want to increase. We want to move forward. Any other thoughts? This is a big one. It's hard when our own bodies are on the line. It's hard. And I think we're at the end of our presentation, so I'll just close with saying all of you reflect in your lives on what we can do to allay the fears, create the openness. Alethea, Debbie, final words?
I just want to say thank you to everyone. I'd like us to pay attention, I think, because we're in the middle of the pandemic. I have seen this as a assault on the feminine, and we had talked about this previous conversation. And because we have taken away the ability to be with our loved one when they pass, we can't touch each other. We're supposed to stay separate from each other. And so I sit with that in the midst of it, that how can we bring forth again feminine into a place where we get the best back from what's been, royally imbalanced for the entire planet, actually.